On this episode of the Rock and Metal Faith Podcast, we're going back in time, a little more history, talking about influential band, trendsetter of its time, Bloodgood. But first, let's start the podcast. Welcome back to the Rock and Metal Faith Podcast. I'm your host, Arin, and this is my co-host, Kris. How you doing there, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you on a Friday night?
Thursday.
What?
It's only Thursday.
Oh, man. You ruined my opening. Oh.
What do you got for Friday nights? Well, you know what? They could be listening to this one on Friday night.
Yeah. You can release it on a Friday night. I don't know why I thought it was Friday. Oh, well. It felt like
I was released on really early Thursday mornings, kind of like late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning usually. And anyways, we got lots to talk about actually. Before we even get to the main part of the episode, it's actually been a couple of weeks since we talked to each other because the last episode with Dale Thompson was recorded before the previous episode, and we just released them in different order, which means we got lots to talk about. Okay.
Right on. Wow. Because that's what I do best, talking.
That's why we run a podcast. We like to talk.
That's right. That's right. If you don't like us talking, well, maybe you shouldn't be listening to us, but I think you should listen to us.
Yes. Don't tell them not to listen.
That's right.
All right. Actually, we got a couple comments on past episodes. Back to our first episode on the top guitarists. We got an episode where a series actually, where we've been counting down 100 top Christian guitarists. And on the first one we did, which went from 100 to 75, we got a new comment on Kenneth Wright, who says, "It's interesting that David Huff and David and the Giants was on this list. I saw them in concert twice in the 80s, have their first 3 albums in my collection, maybe only the 3, not sure. But I never thought of them as having a sound similar to early Petra. But I'm listening to their Inhabitants of Rock album now. It does remind me of Petra's self-titled first album. And my song on theirs is Highway to Heaven." And then he goes on to say, "Oh, well, David and the Giants had horn sections and sax and stuff, so they don't sound like Petra after all."
Wow.
And then, well, I don't know. All I know is I'm not familiar with David and the Giants or David Huff's music. They did a little research, listened to a few of their stuff. Anytime I heard any of their stuff, it just kind of put me in that frame of mind, like early Petra from the Greg Boltz era type of thing. He also commented on another episode, our Guardian Miracle Mile episode, and all he said about that was great album. And yes, I'd agree. It's one of my desert albums, my essentials list, go to, must have. That's why we covered Miracle Mile.
Yeah, that's right.
And we could have covered the other one too. What was that? Fire and Love came before that one.
Fire and Love. Oh, I forgot. Okay, I'm gonna put that song on the website.
Which one? Fire and Love?
To do that.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned this during the episode. I actually didn't acquire the album Fire and Love until fairly recently, although I'd heard stuff off of it. And one more thing from there, and I think it's coming from our YouTube channel. We have a new subscriber named Caleb Moss. So welcome.
Yay!
Welcome to the program.
We should have like claps. There we go. There we go.
All right. There are a few guys out there I know. We may actually try.
Oh yeah, what about your friends there?
Yeah, I was hoping to get him on this week or whatever. He's busy, I think, with work or whatever. He is interested in doing it. It's just a matter of trying to find a schedule. That's the other thing. We were hoping that one episode we did with the podcastathon and the charity and the mustard seed would generate a bunch of new listens and subscribers and this and that. And I thought if we get a bunch of new people, there's a topic that we haven't covered that we should cover. And having my friend on would be a great time to talk about that. I was hoping to do that for this episode, and his schedule didn't work out to come on yet. Hope down the road we'll talk about that.
Yeah, no worries.
So that's where that's going. Yeah, it will happen, just not yet. Maybe a couple episodes down the road, type of thing, because I want to get back to
Yeah.
our list of the top 100 guitarists.
What to? Yeah.
We've got about, I'm guessing, about 3 more episodes of that before we finish that off. So that's where that's going. We've always got lots of things to talk about, type of thing. We've started this history series, which we're kind of continuing today. I'll talk about that when we get into that. We got lots of news to cover.
And now the news.
Okay. In the news, Jamie Rowe was formerly the vocalist for Guardian. So speaking of Miracle Mile, he is doing a couple of shows back with Guardian now. He hasn't been with Guardian for quite a while. He started a new band called Calamity Kills a couple years ago. Really good stuff.
Calamity Kills?
Yes. Have you heard any of that?
Yes. Okay, keep going.
So yeah, Calamity Kills, really good band. I know some of their stuff. We haven't played them, although I think we've talked about Calamity Kills. Jamie Rose says now that band has been established, it's getting recognition. People know who Calamity Kills is. He's comfortable now doing a few shows with Guardian. He's got a couple lined up that they're going to do. He's even willing to do a few others. So he's going to do a couple shows here and there with Guardian. I don't think it's going to be a long-term thing. That's just going to be a few shows here and there type of thing.
Is Guardian poised to put out new stuff in 2026?
I'm not sure about that. I know they were working on material, and at the time, Jamie Rowe was not with them. He says he was not part of Guardian. They likely had a new singer, so I'm not sure how that's going, type of thing. We were doing a segment that we do every once in a while called Michael Sweet Says, just because Michael Sweet is on Facebook quite often, throwing out ideas, making posts, and I thought it'd be interesting to talk about some of the stuff he likes to talk about. A couple of things he has said. He teased about the Big Four tour, which would be Striper, POD, Skillet, and DC Talk together. And called it the Big Four.
Oh my God.
Now, he called it the Big Four because, according to sales, these are the Big Four of, I guess, the Christian bands. Because, I mean, I don't see how DC Talk fits in with Striper, POD, and Skillet.
That would be a show for the ages.
It would, and a lot of people were commenting on that, saying, "Oh, well, no, you should have these four instead, or this one instead of that one." And Michael kept commenting back, saying, "Not according to sales." So if sales is all it means to be the Big Four, that's your Big Four of Christian rock.
If anybody knows the management of any of those four, get a hold of us. We'd love to chat with those guys.
Well,
wow.
And I'll tell you something else. Now, remember the last episode, although for us this was a couple episodes ago, we were talking to Dale Thompson of Bride. Great episode.
Yes.
Great episode. And if you haven't heard that interview, go back in the episode list there and check that out. It was a great interview.
Don't just watch it once. Watch it twice.
But remember the one question we asked him at the end? The one I asked everybody, who would you like to get on stage with, tour with? What was one of the answers he said?
Oh, boy.
Striper. He said Striper is king. Why not play with the king, right? Now, you know what? He might get his wish.
Played with Petra.
He might get his, yes. He might get his wish. He was on tour with Striper. with Petra, but now I'm seeing ads for July into August. Get this: Narnia, Bride, and Stripe are touring Brazil.
Oh my! Oh, in
Yeah,
Brazil.
I
Okay.
actually commented. I think even Dale Thompson, the guitarist from Bride, even had posted that on his feed, and I had commented. I said, "This is great. I I don't think it would happen, but I said I wish you could bring this tour to Canada."
That I agree. I wish I was a promoter right now. I get my people to book them.
Yeah, that would be,
Wow.
man. That would be great. And the other thing, Michael Sweet had commented on this. Here's a food for thought. Doesn't matter if a band has no original member, but is still touring. Would you still go see them? Doesn't matter if if they don't have any original members, and are they just as good as the band? Well, I kind of thought about this. I mean, I've seen lots of bands that have no original members, but then what do you call an original member? You know,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you that exactly.
like uh, Dave Mustaine of Megadeth was an original member of Metallica and got kicked out before they recorded the first record. So now, if everybody except Kirk Hammett leaves Metallica, do we say that and they get new guys in, but Kirk Hammett's still there? Do we say that they have no original members? You know, I think for me, you know what? A lot of guys say, "Well, if there's no original members, now they're a tribute of themselves. They're a glorified tribute band type." But then I thought about this. They don't have the original members, but are there any members from their classic era or their glory days? You know, like
That's
like if
right.
you saw
Yeah,
Petra, who
that's right.
cares if there are no original members? But were there any members of the band from when they were together in the '80s? And last time I saw Petra, they had three members from their classic '80s lineup, so that was good enough for me. Um, so that's food for thought. I guess it's up to each individual. Do they want to go see a band if it's no original members? Do they want to go see a band if it's long time members type of thing? I know if you look at someone like Wasp or well even Whitecross, where the only original member now is Rex Carroll,
Yeah, that's
but
right. That's right.
the guys that with the band are great. Some of those guys have been with them for quite a while now. So there you go. And
There's something about being committed to a band for life.
yeah,
I think that helps with the image and
you know,
the chemistry and you
oh
know.
yeah, definitely, and it's pretty rare. Although I'd have to say, kudos to Striper. They've only had one member change. Perry Richardson came in on bass, and he's the only change they've had from the original lineup type. And so, and he's been with them for quite a while now. So kudos to Perry.
Yep.
Kudos to Striper type of thing. All right, so that's that. Time to plug it in and turn it up. All right, for a plug it in segment now. I don't always play, the band that we're going to be talking about. We play a lot of their music during the episode. And I was trying to think of someone kind of similar to play. And what I'm going to play for you now is a band that's been around, I think, 40 years. Yeah, at least 40 years. We haven't talked about them a whole lot. So I thought it'd be good to kind of introduce them since I've mentioned them a few times, but we haven't talked about them. We'll eventually get around to doing a whole episode about them. But this is Narnia. And this is off of one of the early albums. It's either the first or the second one, called Long Live the King. And this song is called Living Water.
And it's by
Narnia.
Narnia.
So that's a sample of Living Water by Narnia for those who
Oh
have
yeah.
not
Oh,
heard them before. Very good band. And they've had the lineup change a few times over the years. This is off, like I said, one of their early records, first or second. I'm not sure exactly now.
Hi, this is David Roberts of Whitecross, lead singer.
And this is Rex Carroll, lead guitar player from Whitecross. You are listening to the Rock and Metal Faith Podcast. Crank it hard, crank it heavy, crank it all day long.
All right, we're back. We had a little technical difficulty, lost connection for us.
just a
Lost
little,
connection
just a
for a
little.
second, but we're back. We'll carry on. Uh, the band Jerusalem, which we had talked to, I'm sure we did an episode talking about them, talking about the Swedish bands. It was Jerusalem, and Leviticus. Probably just those two bands that we talked about. I think we talked about those two bands because they were early in the program or earlier. Anyways, they're celebrating 50 years as a band, and a lot like Petra actually just did their 50th anniversary, and they also came out with one of their records, Stigum, is going to be re-released in English. See, for those who don't know Jerusalem, a lot of their records were released in Swedish only. Um, they did record some stuff in English. We talked about Dancing on the Head of the Dragon before when we talked about Jerusalem. That was an English song. Some of their songs are English, some of them are in Swedish, but they're going to redo, and I can't remember what it means in English. I had this written. Wait a second. I might have access to my notes. Did I write it down? Uh, no, I didn't. I don't know. I know I saw it somewhere. I was going to write it down, and I didn't. Okay, well, whatever. So that's it for news. And now, I hope I didn't. I know what's where I'm looking for here because I know you're not a huge Bloodgood fan. So
You really gave a lot of homework. Oh my gosh. Like hours of listening to
you know what?
wow.
I listen to so much Bloodgood myself that when I called up a playlist that had a couple of their albums on with a bunch of other albums, I thought I would take a break from Bloodgood and listen to something else. But Spotify said, "Well, all I'm doing is listening to Bloodgood, so that's what I'm playing for you off this playlist."
My goodness. But the good thing is I figured out why in some respects I didn't like
Okay,
Bloodgood
why?
back in
What's
during
that?
those times. Well, I still don't like them because I find that they just drag they just drag their stuff on a little too long. To me, they didn't have that charisma, that you need at the beginning of a
Okay,
song. You know what
well,
I mean? Like
not
to me,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
We're
we're all
all
different. Not
different, but
really, because to me, they had that. I think they had great songs, and we'll get into this too as we talk about the band before we talk about the songs themselves. Because this episode is also part of our history series, and I'm a casual Bloodgood fan. I've got their greatest hits collection that came out after can't remember which third or fourth record type of thing, and I got the latest one, uh, Dangerously Close. It's actually redone, and it came with the trading card that Gerda Records has been putting out with a lot of repackaging and stuff.
oh wow,
Oh no,
you're
no!
a
If I
true
was a true
fan.
fan, I would have had
Wow.
all their stuff a long time ago, which I don't. Those are all I got from them. I kind of would like to get more. They're getting hard to get now unless you want to spend the big bucks, which I don't have. But here's the thing: in our history segment, kind of that came out in the early '80s. These guys were definitely influential. We can't do a history series without talking about the impact of Bloodgood. And Michael Bloodgood, the bass player, and at the time David Shapiro, the guitarist, they kind of recognized there was a need for a Christian metal band. They didn't know much about Striper. I don't even think they knew Striper was on the scene when they formed Bloodgood. They were both getting kind of formed around the same time, I would say, actually. But they recognized the need for a metal band preaching the gospel type of thing and formed a band. And as they got into it, as the career took off, they recognized Les Carlson is a stage actor, a musical stage actor, and really realized that a lot of these songs can use theatrics behind them and did so. They've got the song Crucify where they would do a mock crucifixion on stage type of thing. And Killing the Beast, they would have this beast on stage that they would beat up on and stuff like this. Actually, I think they had a bunch of women with long hair and they just to look like a shaggy beast type of thing. And they would pretend that they were beating on beast and killing the beast and really bringing theatrics into it and stuff like this. Unfortunately, I never had a chance to see Bloodgood, but part of the problem too was after hearing just the greatest hits, going, well, these songs are good, but they weren't produced well, type of thing. If you listen to the production from the earlier records and the last one they put out, the production is night and day type of thing and is really good. Like you probably hear it as we play through some of the songs type of thing. But we should also get into the history of Bloodgood. And they've got a documentary, which I just watched recently. I've been meaning to watch it for ever since it came out and just haven't had a chance to do so. And I figured, well, since we're doing an episode on Bloodgood, I better get my ass in gear and actually watch the documentary and learn a few things.
Right. And that could be the reason, probably, why I didn't get into them like I did with White Cross or obviously Petra, was because the the quality was just not
Yeah.
there.
Part of that, I think, has something to do with them first getting signed to Frontline Records, which didn't put a whole lot of money into their bands. They didn't have a lot of money for recording, basically the bare minimum. And unfortunately, I think it reflected and showed. And they didn't have a lot of money for touring. And, it was basically everything was on a shoestring budget and it's not very, very good. But the other thing is, I mean, talk about heavy metal. Like they released a demo record called Metal Missionaries. And it is full out metal assault. Yeah.
I won't argue that. I mean, years later or so, I'm listening to it. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and I could see why back in the mid '90s when I heard it, like we used to have a family friend of ours, and he was big in Bloodgood, and there was a couple of songs I liked, and I thought, oh my god, they would make stardom if their quality was a lot better.
And they have, yeah, definitely talented players. We'll get into that because they actually had a talk about original lineups. Well, they kept the core guys for the longest time, and Les Carlson was always the voice behind Bloodgood and still is. In fact, he tours under his own name now and still continues to play Bloodgood material, I'm sure. But when they first started, they were super. It's like our friend Terry used to say, music can melt your feelings.
Yeah, they're pretty wow. I mean, now as an older adult, I didn't like them, but I could tell as an older adult now, I could what's the word I'm
Appreciate
looking
them.
for? Yes, that's the word. Thank you. I can appreciate what they brought
Right.
to the market or the community. I may have not jumped on the bandwagon because, well, I was fussy.
Well, we'll see how this goes. Like I said, this is probably your introduction to Bloodgood because I know you weren't a huge fan of theirs. I consider myself a casual fan. I like their stuff. It's almost too bad didn't have a chance to see them live, type of thing. But anyways, let's get into the history. So 1984, I've got, is when they got started in Seattle. The lineup then consisted of Michael Bloodgood on bass, J.T. Taylor on drums, David Safiro on guitars, and of course Les Carlson on vocals. Their very first gig, first time playing live, they opened up for Stryper.
Well, I didn't know that. That's cool.
I don't know, they may have had a few rehearsals, but yeah, not even any club shows. It's like you're playing for Stryper or opening up for Stryper. They
That's going to be a story in itself.
quickly record and release a song to get on radio play. The first song they record is Anguish and Pain. Actually pretty good. Again, a very heavy song, but actually pretty good. As we said, they released a demo tape called Metal Missionaries. And then they did some touring with Daryl Mansfield, who helps them get signed to Frontline. In 1986, they released their first debut album, just titled Bloodgood. It was produced by Daryl Mansfield, but they found they had trouble with their drummer, JT. They couldn't seem to cut it in the studio. He was a great live drummer, but not a good studio drummer. So then they bring Mark Welling in to replace. And that's the other thing that I noticed as I was going through this documentary and writing down every time there was lineup change. They had trouble keeping drummers. Either the guy was really good live and wasn't good in the studio, or he could be good in the studio but didn't have that impact live, or later in the career as their musical repertoire expands, they'd have a guy really good at the heavy stuff but not good at the slower stuff or the finesse stuff or the straight rock stuff. And they needed someone who was versatile. Or family issues would come up, or something would come up, or whatever. Michael Bloodgood saying, we're looking for a drummer. It seemed to be a recurring phrase. Every time we saw a good drummer, make mental note. We might need him later.
Yeah, that's right. I guess drummers are, what's the word? I heard once that drummers are very, very fussy.
Well, it was a case too, like I said, can they hack it? And sometimes, if you're not perfect live, people don't always care because it's live. It doesn't have to be perfect. But in studio, it's different. You want everything to be perfect. You want it to sound as best as you can, type of thing. On their second record, Detonation, in 1986, Kevin Whistler, who replaces Mark Welling on drums. So we've already had 3 drummers on this by the time their second record comes out. JT came in originally, gets replaced by Mark Welling for their debut record. Kevin Whistler comes in and replaces Mark for the second record. Out of the Darkness, the third record there, Paul Jackson comes in to help out because Dave is having issues, type of thing. He's having family issues. By this time, they've been together for a few years, but they're starting to get families. I think he wants to kind of stick around his family and help raise kids, type of thing. 1991, David Huff comes in on drums, replaces Kevin. All stand together. So every album has a different drummer. And this is, for the record, All Stand Together. They go on tour in Russia, and Mark Welling comes back to play with the band for the Russia tour. And then 1992, Paul Rohrbeck comes in on drums. Again, now this is due to versatility. By the time 1992 comes around, they've not just a straight metal band. They're a hard rock band, or a metal band with some hard rock songs, a couple of ballads. Their music style is diverse, type of thing. They need someone who can play diverse styles, not just full out metal assault anymore, type of thing. So Paul Rohrbeck comes in. And they also bring in David McKay to join on keyboards. Then the band goes into a hiatus for over 10 years, somewhere from 1993 to about 2007. And then they reunite again for the last record, which I got dangerously close. And they decide they need a second lead guitarist or a second guitarist. So they bring in Oz Fox of Striper fame to play on the record. Oz actually asked his Striper bandmates, would they mind if he played with Bloodgood? And they were all fine with that. I think Michael even said, if you can get a few gigs out of this, go ahead. So there you go. So Oz Fox comes in to join Bloodgood for the last record. And so that's a brief history of Bloodgood. Also need to mention Kevin Whistler, one of their drummers, actually, I think was it one of their drummers anyways, passes away in 2021, November 5th. And then a year later, July 9th, Michael Bloodgood passes away, 2022. And stuff like this. With the death of two members of the band, they decide that's it. Instead of replace, especially Michael Bloodgood, who was, I think, the heart and soul of the band. It was really his project from day one. That's the end of the band. I did a little poll here because I wasn't sure how your picks were going to come out. I did a little poll on Facebook asking people what their favorite songs for Bloodgood are. 5 top answers is coming in number 5, The Messiah.
Oh yeah, I had that as
Well,
number
we don't
one.
have to give it away. We'll get to your
Wow.
number 1. Number 4 was Top of the Mountain, which is a good tune. I like that one. Number 3, Black Snake. Another good. That's off the first album, and that is good, heavy, fast track. Get in, get out. No bones about it. This is the metal song. Number 2 and number 1 actually tied for number 1. So number 2, number 1 can easily switch places. Number 2 is 7. And number 1 is Out of the Darkness. Okay, we're back again. We're having a little technical difficulties again. If we look a little different, this segment of the podcast is being recorded a different day. Anyways, we're on to our top picks from each album. Although I think you were talking to me as we were trying to get set up here. You didn't pick anything off the first one, self-titled Bloodgood, did you? Kris, did you pick anything off the first record, Bloodgood? No, okay.
Oh, you're talking to me?
I'm talking to you, yes.
Okay, the Messiah.
No, I think you're getting them mixed up.
Okay,
right.
I guess I didn't like a song on the Bloodgood album.
Okay. So here are my picks from the first album, Bloodgood. I've got Accept the Lamb, which is a great one. It starts off with some great harmonies. And then the last song on the album was always been my favorite from when I first heard it. Full out metal assault, guitars through the wall, crank it up to 10, Black Snake. Man, I love that song.
That's a good song.
Yeah, so there you go. Now you got to pick from the first one, Black Snake. Okay, so now we're on to Detonation. You've already said your favorite song from that was The Messiah. Yeah.
There we go, yeah. That is a good song. Nice and heavy.
That's a good one, too. Crucify was also on there. I picked that one. That's an easy pick. I think I picked that because of the theatrics. When they did that live, they would act it out. So it was an easy one. Yeah, between that and the Messiah is a little more slower, a little more melodic, which doesn't make it a bad song, but I think that's with Crucified being a little bit faster and heavier is what pushed it over the edge. As I went through the records myself. I found there wasn't really bad songs. So I was trying to find songs that stood out because a lot of the songs did have a lot of similarity. Casual listener might think they all sound the same. Like casual listener to AC/DC thinks every AC/DC song sounds the same as the previous one. And if you don't dig deep into Bloodgood, you might get that impression. Although they did start branching out to different styles as the career went on. They started doing a little more ballads. They started doing a little more different tempos and bringing keyboards in, stuff like that. So they did try and change the sound around. My other pick for Detonation was Vagrant People, which is a good
Oh,
song.
yeah.
And I like that just because it was different than the rest of the stuff. They did different stuff with the vocals on that one. And it's one that you hear it and it's different than the rest of the songs on that record. All right, so now we're on to Rock in a Hard Place. This is
Rock in a Hard Place.
Yes. Where do you got off of this one?
Another album I did not find on Spotify.
It's there. I was listening to it through Spotify. Oh, it's there. Rock in a Hard Place, the third one. Again, this would be like the last record I think David Sapiro played on.
Okay.
I'm not even
Well,
sure.
I remember. Let me look at my notes. Maybe I wrote in order. In a Hard Place?
Yeah.
I got it.
You got it? Okay. What do you got off that record?
Macing It.
Oh, Shaking It, you mean?
That's a good song. And Do or Die.
Okay. Yeah, that's on there. Yeah, I picked Shaking It too. That's a good one. That one appears on the greatest hits that I've got. Anyways, like I said, I got the greatest hits. Shaking It is on there. And again, I went with the last song off the record, 7, which is a good one. There's other good ones on there. The Presence, Never Be the Same was on there too. Those were good ones. Probably runners up. I think they're on they're on the greatest hits one. So I've heard them before, heard them quite a bit. Again, I wanted to kind of stick away from, or not pick the obvious ones either. Not make all my picks be the greatest hits, even though that's what I'm the most familiar with. Type. They were saying to it in the documentary, the name of this record came out because they felt like they were between a rock and a hard place. Because like a lot of the Christian bands of the early 80s, they were getting a lot of flack from the Christian scene because you can't be Christian and be heavy metal at the same time. So, they faced the same. Sorry, hang on a second. So, yeah, they faced a lot of the same criticism that Stryper faced, that a lot of other bands faced. Getting a lot of flack from the TV evangelists, the whole, the conservative Christians. He says, you can't even have electric guitars and be a Christian in a Christian band type of thing. And
Right.
so that's where the name Rock and a Hard Place came from, because they felt like that's where they were, between a rock and a hard place. All right. On to what, for the longest time, has probably been my favorite record, Out of the Darkness.
Out of the Darkness?
All right. What do you got from there?
Let my people go.
Okay. Sounds good. What else? Is that all you got from that one? Or do you have anything else?
Okay, I'm going for the ballad.
Okay.
Changing Me.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm not surprised
Yeah,
you
that was
picked
a
the ballad.
I can't remember if it was a ballad, but the title looks
Sounds
like it is.
Yeah, I think I did hear that once or twice. I'm going with the title track, you got, Out of the Darkness.
That's a nice opening.
Yeah, Out of the Darkness, title track from that record. Definitely one of my all-time favorite Bloodgood songs. Also off of that one.
I can understand now why you like that. That's
and also from that one, the fifth one on that record, Top of the Mountain. That's another one. Then it builds up, starts off light and then builds up. I believe it's been a few days since I actually last listened to Bloodgood, but man, when I was researching this, I was listening so much, and I was trying to check out new stuff that I didn't know so well. But I know from this record, Out of the Darkness, Top of the Mountain, stand out in my mind. There's other good ones on there. Again, like I said, Let My People Go is a great one. New Age Illusion is a good one too. On to the next one. All Stand Together. You got any picks for that one?
okay. Out of Love.
Okay.
And Fear No Evil.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one.
I almost think that single, maybe other bands saw it and took the title, but I'm just saying that song is talked a lot about with bands.
It is. Well, it's just one of those cliche lines, cliche titles. Whitesnake used it on the last record, but it also comes from the Psalm 23 as well, right? So I walk through the valley of darkness, I fear no evil. So, and there's a lot of bands that have even taken that whole song and turned it into music. I know Deliverance did it. A couple others have done it. Even Striper did it with the song "The Valley" and talking about though I walk through the valley of death, I fear no evil, and they've got that great dum da dum da dum beat behind it as they're playing that song. It is a cliched line, but it's a great line. Who did it first? I'm not sure. But we're talking about the middle of their career, were they the first ones to use that line? I don't know. Well, I guess you could say the Bible was the first one to use that line.
I think the best version I've heard of Fear No Evil would have been by X Sinner.
Okay.
They did a great version of it.
I gotta look that up again or refresh my memory. I don't remember that one. They had one called Walking Evil. I don't.
And the second would have been White Cross's recent version,
right,
of Fear No Evil.
Well, I'm always on. I always got the wheels in my head spinning there, trying to think of new episodes to do or more stuff we can do on the podcast, and trying to think of themes. Maybe one episode we'll do all about sounds of prayer and anything with pray or prayer in the title type of thing. I was also thinking about Psalm 23 and how many bands have covered something from that type of thing. So we could do, White Cross and Striper and Bloodgood and Deliverance, and I'm sure there's a bunch more out there type of thing have used those lines as well. But yeah, no, good. What do I got from Stand Together? I picked SOS and Kingdom Come. And I've been listening to so much Bloodgood lately that I know I've heard SOS quite a bit. Kingdom Come must have been one of those songs that kind of came across the playlist there and going, oh, that's a little different. I kind of like that one. So, okay, I'll stick that on my list. It doesn't stick in my head right now. I'd have to go back to it and listen to it again. But that's yeah, okay. That's all stand together. There were actually some other good ones on there too. There's what else? Even the title track, all stand together, escape from the fire. You know, like I said the last couple of records, it was hard to pick just two or one or two songs for me. I'm going, really, most of this record is good, or the whole record is good. And now I got to pick one or two. I don't know.
Wow.
All right, and now to the best, probably the best record of the bunch, or definitely the best produced record. It's Dangerously Close and stuff. I know you said you really like this one as a whole. That this record stands out for you. I think the production on Dangerously Close just exceeds everything else they had ever done. Again, I go back to the previous records and go, the sounds are good. I like the sounds. They just don't come across on the record type of thing. They have had a couple of live records out. Maybe I need to check out the live stuff and see if they can sound better live type of thing. It's almost in my mind now, it's almost the Kiss scenario. Kiss didn't sell a lot of records until they released a live one. And then all of a sudden people got Kiss and got what they sounded like and go, okay, now we get it. And that might be that kind of scenario too, where once you've heard Bloodgood live, once you've seen them live, you go, now I get it, type of thing. But
Wow.
Dangerously Close. What are your thoughts of that record, just in general, type of thing?
I really like their Lamb of God song.
I love that
Yeah,
song.
that's a good song. I
Okay.
thought I saw a couple of different versions of it on that album on Spotify.
Maybe, I don't think. No, God is all the God. And I've got,
No?
like I
Okay.
said earlier, I've got the
Oh,
Girder.
you have it?
The
Okay.
Girder re-release. Comes with a cool little trading card. I keep them in the jewel cases. It's a different cover than the original cover. The original cover was basically just a black one with a black design. So it's hard to.
Can you make it more center? Like
Um,
bring it. Oh, there we go.
but now
Well, okay,
you get
not
the light.
that close, but that was
Yeah,
good enough.
now you get the light
Okay.
flashing on it. For those of you who are listening on audio, maybe look up online. If you don't know what Bloodgood's Dangerously Close looks like, and there was, again, two covers of the record, because they had the original release, then the re-release put out by Girder. I mean, that's what I ended up with. But the first time I heard Lamb of God, I loved that song. That is one of my picks from this record as well.
Lamb
And
of God.
yeah, and the other one on this record that I really like is Man in the Middle and stuff. Another good one, and there's some good heavy riffs on this record, and the tone of the guitars come through a whole lot better than they did in the past. I think that's what I like. I should look up who produced this one. Maybe down the road we'll do a whole segment just about Dangerously Close, do an album review, in-depth album
I
review.
like Pray.
That's a good one too. Again, another song about prayer, but
Yeah, that's good. That's a really good. I was surprised they titled it Pray. I was like, wow, that's cool.
that one, In the Trenches, is a crowd favorite, I know, or a fan favorite, as well as I think Run the Race is another one I like too, type thing. And as mentioned too, when we're talking about the history of Bloodgood, they brought in a second guitarist. I think it really helped maybe some of the songwriting, some of the playing. Oz Fox plays on this record. So anyways, yeah, that's my picks from Dangerously Close, Lamb of God, Man in the Middle. Here's a little bit of Lamb of God.
Yeah, it's a good song.
Tongues of fire that lick up straw. The doom go down into the dark. The last remark on dying lips. Break away from the fingertips. Stretched out his arms to
Lamb of God. All right. Do you want to move on to your birthdays then? And I'll just quickly rattle them off there. So April 8th, we've got Larry Norman, born in 1947, the grandfather of Christian rock. If you don't know who he is, go back to our first episode on the history of Christian rock. We talked about Larry Norman. Also born April 8th is Wendy Kaiser, the female vocalist for Resurrection Band, or Rez, also married to the other vocalist and guitarist Glenn Kaiser. She was born in 1953. April 10th, we have Rick Florian, who was the vocalist for Whiteheart. He was born in 1962. And April 13th, Terry Russell, who is the drummer, or was the drummer for Holy Soldier. And I think he plays with Worldview as well now. I know he's playing with one of these new bands as well. I believe it's Worldview. April 15th, we have Patrick Judge, who plays guitar with Demon Hunter, born in 1987. And same day we have Ben Kasica, who is the former guitarist for Skillet. Played with Skillet from 2001 to 2011, born 1984. April 16th, we have the drummer for Jerusalem. We were talking about Jerusalem earlier in the episode, doing their 50th anniversary. Klaus Underhill, the Jerusalem drummer, born 1961. April 17th, Noah Henson, who was the former guitarist for Pillar. You hear much Pillar? No? All right, and April 20th, we have an album anniversary. The Striper album, Goddamn Evil, was released 2018 on April 20th. And last one, April 22nd. We got Dane Gansmore and drums for Jerusalem as well. So I guess there are 2 drummers from Jerusalem we have. There you go. That's our birthdays.
Nice.
And I guess that's our episode. All right, so God bless everybody. Keep on rocking.
Thank you for coming out or listening.
You have been listening to the Rock and Metal Faith Podcast. Keep on rocking.
Wow.